Welcome to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. We also have the speaking podcast and the meditation podcast, and all can be found on roycolin.com. Today, my guest is all the way from India, Wing Commander. His name is Satyendra Chou, but he goes by Winko Chou. Did I say that correctly?
Oh yes, quite there.
So you might tell us about the nickname first.
Yes. So actually, this nickname is nothing but a usual norm in the services where Chauhans and Chaudharies and people anything to do with Chow and further become only Chow for easy remembrance, easy to pronounce, easy to execute. And Winko is the short form, or you could call it acronym for Wing Commander. So that generally, and this was my longest serving rank, so it is kind of stuck with me. And I wake up and go to sleep with Winko Chow.
Okay, fair enough. So you might tell the audience about your military journey, what age you started, and the
Okay,
training involved.
all right. So yes, now thank you so very much for having me on your show, and it's a real pleasure. I never thought I would be speaking about my military journey, although I attribute everything to my life to my military journey, actually. That is where, like they say, they make men out of boys. So that is where I learned a lot of things. And the journey, I wouldn't say was very smooth. It had all sort of challenges, being thrown at me, and uh, quite a few were my own designs. So nothing to blame anybody there. But yes, it did teach me everything that I am today. I started out as a college dropout, and I ended up being a postgraduate in and a master's in marketing management. So it couldn't have been possible had the service not, if not facilitated, at least not, let me continue what I was pursuing. So it all started way back. I come from a background of defense family. My grandfather was a freedom fighter, and my dad was in the Air Force. He was an Air Force
What's
officer
a
too.
freedom fighter for those that don't know?
Okay, okay, all right. Okay. Oh, I'm thinking as if every country was born independent. It's all right. So as you all know that we were ruled for quite a long time by various people at different times, and the last one to be there were Brits. So and
They're
it
still
was
in
very
Ireland.
close. Yeah, yes, actually, yes. So my grandfather, as a young man, maybe in his teens, actually, decided to do some adventurous things out of that passion for which we all live, and especially if it is related to the country and stuff which is happening all around you. So he did participate in that movement in a small way, but he did contribute, and he and his brother, his younger brother, both were part of this movement. And yes, then he continued with his profession. He was a farmer. He was in the agriculture. I come from a very humble background, and I have a lovely setting along the river Ganga, or Ganges as everybody knows it. So that is where I come from. And my dad also moved out, uh, did his basic studies, joined in the ranks, moved up, and became a commissioned officer. He was an administrative officer, and I kind of followed suit, not not by choice of everyone, but like I said, my designs at the end of the day. And there I attribute a lot of things to the so-called ignorance that I had in terms of not knowing things which are very basics and very essential for all of us. And actually, not only me, there are millions that are not really aware of as how you should be taking your life. So I kept experimenting, and I dropped out of college, and was still working here and there. And when suddenly something struck my head, and I said, okay, I was doing flying when I was in my college as a National Cadet Corps cadet. So I wanted to pursue that, and I applied for it. Unfortunate part, for various reasons, especially the medical ones, I couldn't make it, and I continued in the ranks. And life kept teaching me a lot of things, and as I grew, I kept doing my part in a bit, learning slowly. And it was at about pretty late in, so to say, at about 30 odd years, 34 years or so, when the, I call it awakening, happened in terms of what my real powers are. When I started believing in myself, I had to shed all that disempowering belief and the mindset, and told myself, from here on, I steer my own course. And that is where things started to change. I was in the ranks and I applied for commissioning. Although I was already masters in marketing management, and I wanted to leave service and try out my hand in the corporate, but then I pursued, and then I started out with the air defense, went on to do a lot of security business in the Air Force, which is called the ground defense in a way. And then it was administration, and my last stint was as chief admin officer of a very prestigious base in the northeastern part of India. So that is all about my journey, and I hung my uniform, and by then I had found my passion into talking to people and wanting to share what I had learned. I had learned the difficult way, and that is how I became a coach. I did my certification from uh, the ICF, which is, so to say, the gold standards of the Council for the coaches and Coaches Federation, basically, and then from then on, I have moved further. I've started a small company. Now I'm pursuing my goal of empowering people, especially the youth, to take on life, to understand what uh, is called the basic awareness, or if I may say, mm, the understanding which is very essential for living life, but somewhere is lying ignored. So that is my whole purpose now, and slowly but steadily, I am, moving ahead, and the graph does go like this, just stagnate, then go up, but it has not been a dip. So I think I'm in the right hands at the moment.
And like with the training, because people would see the training from the US, just from movies,
Okay.
how they're screaming and abusing people and trying to condition them to basically obey. Is it the same in India?
Okay. Well, so to say, like I said, our lineage comes from the Royal Air Force. So, eh, if it wouldn't be much different, it would certainly be there. However, things have changed, and I think that is essential. Today only, I'm busy doing some curriculum for my online program. So I was thinking of conditioning, and I started thinking of right from the time you go for your board, that is interviews, and then once you're selected, you land up there, and then you realize, for a lot of people, I still remember, without naming anybody, I remember one of my friends who would landed up for the training with nice big suitcases and stuff like that, where whereas generally people are, they come small baggage because you hardly require anything during your training. And the first part that is done is that you are sent to the, you know stylist. So, and you get a nice hairdressing, so that is to shed your first ego, that you all look the same. You actually forget how you actually look. So we all start looking the same. So there is bit of yelling, quite bit of yelling, and that part which actually brings in the camaraderie, if you may ask me. If those difficult times are not given to you, if I do believe in some which way that yelling part, like I said, it mm, kind of breaks your ego, so that in the times to come when there is real need, your emotions are not really turned on from small little things where you could think of detaching also. So there is quite a bit of everything there, everything, and that is where, mm, apparently that is how, boys are turned into men.
Mm.
So
And
I,
like,
I
did
hope
you?
I've answered that.
Yeah, no, you have. And
Although
uh,
things have changed now, like I was saying,
yeah,
Roy, the things have changed now, and they're far too better, uh, with the information boom and things, uh, breaking down walls between what is behind the walls and right here. So there is so much there that mm, people have started to understand and look beyond what was only stipulated. Like I keep saying, management is a way of life, and somebody smarter devised to or decided to put it in pen and paper. So we also were kind of, bogged down with, oh, this is what is written and this is how it should be done. And okay, don't apply yourself. I still remember I was told by one of my seniors that officers don't justify. But at the end of the day, as I grew, I started becoming a cause person than a symptom person, because I said there has to be something, which needs to be addressed at the core level rather than addressing only the symptoms. So that has happened in the training, that has happened in your workplace. Things are far too democratic, if I may say, than the military, like even in the military now.
and in India, is there conscription? Do you have to sign up, or is it all voluntary?
It is absolutely voluntary. We are very lucky to, to be touching big marks in terms of population. So uh, we we are a huge number, and slowly the numbers would be evident on the world map in terms of pandemic. So where we would show how that is our strength also. So we have this voluntary service, but yes, we are expected to kind of do a term before you are eligible for your pension, although you're not signing a bond or a stuff like that, other than certain necessary attributes, like, you have to complete certain part of training, and if you quit in between, obviously the expenditures will have to be borne by you and stuff like that, and certain more things there. But at the end of the day, it is very much voluntary, and one can decide to quit anytime that you want. Uh, Yet, the way we are still psyched up, and our belief system and mindset are still working, that we would like to be resting assured, for our lives, that, oh, yes, I would get a pension and I would have, in a way, it is good also. So, so that is how it works here.
And like what I have found with a lot of military, around the world, they tend to be brilliant business people because their mindset, the way that they've been trained, they're very systemized, which is very important in business. And like
Mhm.
I assume it has benefited you for your business because you have even said you didn't have big dips. You're on track for what you're
Absolutely.
doing.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I really haven't thought about it in those terms, but yes, like if you want to ask me, there are a lot of qualities or skills which you develop, and qualities you develop and skills you learn, whether it is, in managing your day-to-day affairs. In the military itself, you have establishments which are related to certain part of commerce, you have establishments which are related to training, you have establishments which are related to your routine administration and organizing stuff. It could be as simple as managing a small little party, which is an event. So, like, I was very lucky. As a matter of fact, when I look back, I say everything that people thought would be a threat actually worked out for me as an opportunity. Like I said, whether it was my commissioning and later on moving up in service, also, I remember that things came to me which even I thought, oh, it is a very challenging situation, and I had all the option to kind of turn down that so-called opportunity, and but it certainly appeared a big threat. But it came to me, and I said, okay, let it come, and I got to learn from there, and I moved up. Like, I have been the mess secretary in one of the very reputed Indian Air Force Command's messes, and where I was only a small member of the committee, a very small member, which is called a accommodation member who would look after the accommodation part of the messes. From there, I became the kind of working, biggest working partner in that, in the commercial parlance, that I was running the entire affairs of the mess. So, and that taught me so many things. You could call it, like I said, I would call it a seven-star facility which I was managing. And I we had, so much of high ranking officials, so I would learn everything. So as a administrative officer also, you are kind of in charge for virtually whatever is happening on ground. Like my last appointment, I was in charge of security. I was looking after medicine. I was looking after schools. I was looking after commercial establishments on the base. So everything, I mean, environment was my baby. So sports were under me. So virtually, I was looking after everything. So it, teaches you so much in terms of business entities if one wants to follow. And I certainly have been a very good learner. So I have lapped up the opportunity, and there are various refresher courses which, although are oriented to for you to be groomed and learn and for your growth in the service. But yes, they are certainly much beneficial. At certain stages, we have courses which give you degrees in par, at par with which is called MPhil, which is called masters in various streams, masters of finance, masters of other managements, which are available in various courses. So there is tremendous growth.
And you mentioned there about like the organizing the schools. Did people have to bring their full families when you were on different bases, or how did that operate?
Oh yes. So in the Indian Air Force, generally we've been lucky. So most of our bases have the establishment where families can come in. Although there are certain challenges in terms of housing and stuff like that, which obviously would be, like I said, everything is, transitionary. So things keep moving. Yet you can keep your families. So people do whoever want to bring depending on where the place is located. Like I have done few tenures where I had to stay away from family because my children were at some stage of education where I couldn't risk them to, risk to take them to that place. Like I was served in Port Blair. I have served, my last station was, in Northeast, where my children couldn't go.
And
So those are,
how long would you be away for?
yeah, so it is, the tenures are generally about 3 years. So anything between 2 to 3 years minimum, that is. So you will have to stay away. But yes, there are, far too many opportunities that your families can join when they have break. You can take a break and go, time permitting, which generally happens. So things are not difficult there in terms of schooling, and there is centralized kind of schooling system which is available, which are called, earlier it used to be called central schools, now they're called Kendriya Vidyalayas. So Kendriya Vidyalayas do give you an opportunity, at par all across the country to have the same syllabus, similar kind of sessions, except in far northeast where weather permitting these cycles to change. Otherwise, generally it is the same.
Would you find, like, when you were away for a long spell, obviously holiday periods, they could come to you, you could go to them, but would you find that it was hard to reconnect with the family when you were away that long?
All right, yeah, that's an interesting one. So, and I have option to, you know, put my guards up. But yes, what I would tell you is that towards the later part, yes, it does happen. Like now I'm in Bangalore. So, and it was from 2000 and 2011 that I had to move out of Bangalore when my children were at the crucial stage. Like in our schooling system, we have the first major exam is when your children are in 10th grade. Now we have a new education policy which is changing all that. But otherwise, it was 10th and then 12th. Then you have 3 year of graduation. That is how we move. Our schools are secondary school, then senior secondary or higher secondary, if now it would be called again. So my children were at that stage. So and I was away. So slowly I realized, and I value that, and I keep telling people that live that moment. Although my children were grown up, but still now I feel that I have missed that part. You never know. That was very crucial stage of their teenage when they were moving. So where probably my requirement was there. And also I realized when I came back home, yes, sometimes you feel that you're a guest around here. So it does happen. Not all the time, although I would be speaking to my family on everyday basis. I was very lucky. I Wherever I was, communication was not an issue, and I made sure that I would speak to my wife, who was tending to the children at that crucial stage. So I knew she needed, if nothing, at least to offload. So
Mm.
I would speak to her at least for an hour, if not two. And yes, with children it wouldn't be that regular. It would be some hi hellos because they have their own priorities.
No.
But like you said, when you get back home, you do realize that you know there are some unseen, probably barriers which have come in there.
Yeah.
Where where your bonding is slightly affected. Yes, it does happen.
Okay. Now, getting in the military side of things. So, if we look at, when there's just say war, if we look at what happened, say in Iraq, and they were basically told weapons of mass destruction, which was, it's been proved it was a lie. But the military are acting on the orders of those above. Is there cases where what you're being told to do is wrong? How can we fix that system? Because normally you're trained not to ask questions. I'm assuming that's the way that
Absolutely.
it works, and it shouldn't be like that,
Absolutely.
because the reality is, if you look deep within, if you're told to do something where they're bombing cities in Syria and around the world, killing innocent people, like, how can we change that system?
Okay. So, if you look at our geography, generally what has happened around here is that, um, and especially while being in the Air Force, you necessarily did not have to do probably what the U.S. Air Force has to do, or what NATO forces are doing. So we were slightly lucky there, so not to be part of that.
Yeah.
So yes, yet there are occasions whereby you generally set to think that is this right, and is there a conflict? Like told you, over the period of time, at least in the Indian Air Force, we have, we've maintained our pace with the time, and we have evolved. Although our management techniques, all those remain same, yet there have been a lot of, behavioral aspects which have been covered. As a matter of fact, we have something called as C labs, which is Center for Learning for Behaviors. So whereby a lot of research is happening, and we are evolving. So in the Air Force, Indian Air Force, necessarily we've not had situations whereby you had that conflict. Still, there are certain times, and there has been enough liberty for anybody to ask questions and do get replies. Sometimes those replies may not be very convincing. So and uh, at the end of the day, you know uh, I am trying to think where I had certain conflicts like that, which probably made me think twice before executing an order. So I generally have done that, and people have stood by me. I do remember where I had to undergo, and I mean, there was an inquiry because I did certain things which actually were right. The command was also, like, we call it lawful. You are expected to obey the lawful command. So the commands were also lawful, yet there were certain issues, and my organization and my bosses always actually stood by me, although I was given to understand at one point that okay, you know, we may have to, under compulsion, although in principle everybody knew that there was nothing wrong, but they said we may have to, you know, give you a warning kind of thing. But then I realized that my boss in the command headquarters stood by whatever that I had done or whatever was done by the organization. And we generally haven't had that kind of issue. But again, coming back, mm, I think quite a bit of, when I go back, quite a bit of that training does help you, where uh, if I may use the word, some of it is brainwashing too. So it can happen. It can happen that you are, you know, and it's a long training. In our case, it's the training is pretty long. You know, it is about a year-long training. So there is enough to kind of write a new slate, you know, on your subconscious.
Mm.
So probably that helps. Yet I think at the end of the day, somewhere our, I would call, you know, what would I term them, even the national policy has those values which probably we had imbibed, you know, in the defense forces, as our you know, fathers and grandfathers who got us freedom did write certain things. Very interestingly, I was just reading a piece yesterday whereby, and you must be aware, in the present scenario, the whole of China issues in the Ladakh region is happening in India, where China is being aggressive and it is said to be violating the line of actual control and stuff like that. So somebody had written a piece, or it is an old piece which was circulated on the social media, which said that the first prime minister, when he was given the hint of this situation, uh, I mean, right in the beginning, when they said, okay, we would have a defense policy like this, he said, we are a non-violent nation. So we don't require a defense policy like that. So we generally, I think, have been little lucky, but yet the army has to, the Indian army does face this dilemma, whereby certain times, I think you have that conflict. My younger brother's in the army and he's in the fighting forces as an infantryman, and he has served in the valley for a very long time. He's served in the northeastern part of for a very long time, and he has some interesting tales to tell, uh, whereby mm, there are some small conflicts, not major ones. I don't think we've had situations where you would have that major conflict. And if that happens, your to answer the last part of your question, what would you do about it? So if that happens, um, I think people have had the liberty to, you know, put their foot firmly on ground and say, okay, this is not right and I'm not going to do it. That is one. Now, how do you mend if things are going wrong? I think it depends on the individual. You know, from person to person, it does matter. But by and far, we are a very democratic forces, and people have, you know, mm, people think twice before passing an order also, which may not be lawful.
Mm.
So, so we are slightly lucky there.
It's a pity that it's not like that around the world because,
Yes,
yeah.
you are certainly very true, and it is not like that all across.
So, what kind of corruption would you have seen in the military side of stuff? What would
Oh, again, I think what I would say is that, you know, it goes back to my psyche as a non-violent nation. So where, if you have read Mahatma Gandhi, so we, you know, there are few pillars that we have banked ourselves on, which is, you know, honesty, integrity, and stuff like that. So we've been there. I wouldn't say there is no corruption and things don't happen, but generally, um, one is, as I put it in a very simple term, is that we are too scared to be corrupt because we are so democratic. You could write a letter. and start an inquiry in the Indian Armed Forces, by the way. And I'm talking of the Indian Air Force. Although the policies, the government policy says that if the complaint is anonymous, it need not be actioned. Yet, yet, if even if there is a complaint or any sort of complaint, whether it is verbal or written, uh, I, being an administrator, have found that it is taken cognizance of, and so people think twice. Yes, uh, I would say, in the very higher bracket, there have been cases in like the other forces. We not been kind of we also have been there, whether you call it Augusta Westland scam, where a helicopter deal was cancelled, VIP helicopter deal, and very recently there were a lot of issues raised during the Rafale deal, but nothing was proven. So, m- and small bit of corruption here and there, I think uh, it has become a, I would say, operational hazard. But generally, people are honest, and if they are not honest, they are far too scared to get into a corruption. you know like I was saying, if I have to put it lightly, I am honest because nobody tried to corrupt me. So so nobody even dares to corrupt anybody. So that is where the lucky factor lies, especially uh, at the lower rung of the ladder, at the grassroots level. At the higher level, um, I'm not too sure how is it happening, because like I'm also privy to the whatever information is available in public domain, and from there, whatever little I know, there have been some kickbacks here and there in the past, but there have been cases which you could probably count on your fingertips. So not many, and not too blatant also, not too blatant. So where you think that these scams probably are designed, like we all are hearing these days, vaccine is becoming a big scam. So there's nothing of this sort which probably uh, maybe we've not thought of it, and few who have thought of it are probably not around, and they've not tried to deal with the defense forces. So you may know few names that I'm talking of, which people are absconding from India. So, but not in the defense, I think.
And with the current situation, is India in lockdown as well, like the most of the world?
Yes, we are certainly, and like I said, we are. Uh, I would say we are still a big ignorant lot. You know, so when I think back, we're very happy with what is being fed to us, and we're very convinced. We have very small requirements, and our I will not try to say that our level of education and literacy is limited to only earning bread and butter for ourselves. Yet we are far too I would try to call it far too satiated with, as long as my things are being met around me. So I am not really interested about lockdown. Like I would like to tell you something which is very personal here, is that the place that I'm living is so psyched up that it has been more than 5 months that people have visited each other. People have not stepped into each other's homes for last 5 months
Oh
plus.
God.
They're only connected over probably the telephones and some calls here and there. There have been no social gatherings except for one which recently happened on our Independence Day, where I did go. But otherwise, yes, it's uh, quite a sorry state. The effects of it, I'm keeping my fingers crossed as to when would they come out, in terms of I mean, impact of economy, impact on education, impact on your social bonding itself. Imagine today, I have started to think. As a matter of fact, I was just discussing it with my son, who's a young lad, that in the times to come, the way we are being psyched up, tomorrow I would say, oh, I could manage to, go for a wedding with 4 people. Not required, because you're not bonding. Slowly, I don't know where it would, take us. As such, our interpersonal relations were slowly being affected, whether you call it by complexities of life, of social media, too much of materialism, and stuff like that, or getting into a psyche where we started to feel that if I have my material needs, I don't need anybody. So why should I be interacting with people? you know and over the period of time, since there was no requirement, some of our basic qualities have diminished, like qualities of acceptance, qualities of being tolerant, qualities of compassion, which was there in the larger families, and for which India was known and was being looked up upon, in the East. We had a different culture, but slowly we're also accepting what is the world norm. Probably
I'm
I
assuming
have
you don't
answered
have
more than what
any.
you asked. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm assuming because, like, with Dublin 2 weeks ago, and then last weekend, like you had millions in Berlin and in London as well. I'm assuming there was nothing like that in India.
No, nothing at all. Nothing at all. And you know, mm, mm, although we are far too a democratic country, but yet, mm, I think we still haven't realized that in our hierarchy of needs, where do we want to go? You know why I'm saying that? There is a small, mm, probably missing link here. Is that the little that I have read of Maslow's hierarchy of need? You meet your safety, security needs, then you go to your belongingness, and then you go to your super actualization and blah blah. Here I feel that our safety, security needs keep moving the threshold up. I have a small house, then I want a bigger one. I have a smaller car, I need a bigger one. I have, you know, I was holidaying probably in India, now I want to go abroad. So, and now the link from here I'm going forward is to the business around me. And now specifically to the media. Media would want to sell what is being sold. So media is happy, probably, where the interest lies, wherever, I mean, their vested interests are. So the moment, I think, when they realize that their interests lie in some form of gathering and people protesting, they wouldn't be highlighting them. So, but as of now, people are very happy staying indoors. People are very happy working from home. If not happy, at least, I wouldn't really call them happy, but yes, they are fairly okay, and people are managing their things in a way. So they really haven't, like I said, we haven't reached that stage in terms of our growth, that we start thinking of those, basic rights and qualities and powers that we require, like powers of being born independent. Like I believe in, energy and soul theory. So you are a free soul actually. But yes, we are, probably those ideas are still far-fetched, and those are my priorities actually. And a lot of us do think in those terms, to empower the world to look beyond certain things. Hopefully we would be able to make some impression somewhere.
Exactly. What about the UN? Have you any knowledge of how the UN works? Because just from stuff that I have studied, it seems like it's kind of orchestrated on one side rather than operating for the betterment of mankind. It doesn't seem like it, in paper. It sounds like a great idea, but
Yes.
what's your opinion on that one?
Well, my knowledge there is limited. Yet, what I would say is that uh, as we were growing up, we also always looked up to the UN. But now we all know, it's turning out to be kind of, might is right. So, and I hope I'm trying to, make some sense here, that we all know how it is functioning. it is bullying, it whatever you may want to call it. It is either, my way or highway. If you don't toe my line, you're not my friend. Simple as that. As long as you keep toeing my line, yes, you're funded, you do this, and we all know certain pockets how they function. And I am not much aware of the world politics, but the little that I keep myself abreast of is that we all are aware how it functions. And um, why is that happening? Where would it take us? It would be interesting to see. Maybe at the cost of peril, maybe at the cost of peril, but that is where we are headed to. Today, the probably the the general moods is that we've lost confidence in anything. The mistrust is slowly, kind of deepening within us. Things are available in a lot of domains where there is information available, where you could lay your hands and go over a research, look into the history, look into certain decisions which have happened, and whatever is happening. Although I'm very sure that it happens in world media also. When a certain house doesn't play ball, it is said to be anti establishment and stuff like that. So yet why does that happen? I really, although I would want to think, but then I really haven't thought about it. That what is the recourse? But it is no different. And look, in my country, there are few programs which are happening in terms of development, and we all know, uh, at the end of the day, we all, like the other many NGOs which work, so it has become a air conditioned, high paying NGO. So that is my take of the UN. There are a lot of programs. I have registered, as a matter of fact, as a consultant. I have registered myself for Asian Development Bank. And so thereby I do keep some tab on what are the UN projects happening in the world over and stuff like that, or maybe within my own country. But I really don't think we've neither encouraged them so much, nor we've been able to kind of extend our clout over UN, that we have any say. So we are like the way our country is maintains a balance, kind of neutrality at every cent. So
Mm.
that is the way it is.
And you mentioned neutrality because Ireland was, in theory neutral, but the EU has created a super army called
Hmm.
PepsiCo. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. And
Yes.
Ireland, they voted in the government voted in. Most people haven't a clue about it, and now they're going giving billions. And my fear is that you're creating this super army. Armies want wars.
Very true. uh, when you speak of that, it does come to my mind that we too, I'm not too sure if I would want to use the strong word as are creating certain things like that. Yet I I have a feeler that we are headed that way. Slowly, it would be, like most of the part of these superpower West, the capitalist would be taking some decisions.
Mm.
I think I'm trying to, if you would read between the lines, you would understand that the way we are going, in terms of, yes, we were a closed economy, and then we opened our borders, and you know we started inviting a lot of things, and we did away with, we actually came in with a lot of reforms in terms of businesses, in terms of ways of doing business. And slowly, it appears that we are headed that way, whereby mm, uh, there would be some houses which would have some say in maybe running a country.
Mm.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I do believe in the power of numbers and probably the energy. So mm, I would want to believe that it wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
But let's see how does
definitely.
it turn out.
Yeah. Another question there it is. Is Indian a nuclear country?
Yes, we are a nuclear country.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the one thing that when I was researching that a few years ago, that startled me, there was over between all the different countries, you know, China and the USA, UK, France, Germany, the amount of testing on nuclear bombs was like over 2,000. And like that, them testing that were done in the environment, some were done in the water, some were done on the lands, and that's going into the ecosystem. And you know, it's unbelievable that so much testing was actually done.
Mhm. So in our case, from the little knowledge that I have of the events that took place, and we were, you know, we were very late in mm, developing those establishment. Like I said, uh, we we were formed. The nation started out on the basic foundation of non-violence. So that was the way, we sought our freedom, and it was actually it strengthens the belief in the energy system and the basic form of the energies, that when you start believing in them and when you start working on them, it can happen that an idea like this, nobody would have imagined that any country would attain freedom with non-violence. We did that.
Mm.
Yes, we had, yes, that time we didn't have so much of number, but we still were good in numbers, and we were ready to sacrifice ourselves. We did. A lot of people laid down their lives into actually millions. So having started from there, it was very late when our whole policy took a small shift from there and started to become like now also we have no first use policy, right? But at the same time, slowly, very slowly, there are very little signs of we starting to become little assertive. Otherwise, we still are a nation which tries to take some blow and say, okay, Lyle, okay, we'll take. Like presently also, the recent development in last few days has been that China crossed over into our territory on the night of 29th and 30th, and then again on 31st, and they were pushed back, and we still are whereas a week from then, uh, we have a new I mean, head of the Combined Defense Services, which is a, a kind of a body which is going to coordinate between all the three forces, who said that we've had enough, and now if China violates and shows some aggression, they would be amply replied. But still, we are maintaining peace. We still talking. The whole country is shouting as to why are we talking, but we have, those are probably our guidelines and our policy of um, uh, dealing with the aggression to certain stage. So we did not have so many tests as to affect the environment. It was, and when we did that also, there was a lot of camouflaging which was done, because US was monitoring whatever was happening around in this region. I'm talking of when we went nuclear. So it took a lot of courage to defy US then and go ahead and do that, where probably everything, every monitoring agency in the US was kind of, eyeing in with all magnifying glasses. But still, so there were not much of damage done with that. Yet there is far more damage in terms of other aspects of environment. You call it, like I call it, a vicious circle. Everything that is happening around you is generally controlled by somebody at the end. You will find the chain would end with somebody, some big shot. It may be a political big shot, or it may be a big shot who's connected to somebody who is in the policy making, who has some cloud somewhere, whether it is our education, you know privatization of education, whether it is big businesses like automobile, whether it is big businesses like the or anything to do with the environment, or in terms of health, in terms of big chains, are all in control of people who have some say. So if they have probably the vested interest everywhere, if they're creating a disease, they are the ones who are manufacturing something to counter it. So
Mhm.
they have interest everywhere. So that is how it is happening. And my knowledge on the environment issues is not too great, whether it is carbon emissions and stuff like that. But yes, we are damaging in our own which way, uh, and not much is being done in terms of a policy coming out which says, which tries to curb this, or which tries to kind of creates a awareness in the masses to understand that how damaging it is for your generations which are coming by. If there's no drinking today, I don't know what I'm eating, and half of my illness is because of what I'm eating, drinking, and breathing,
Yeah.
and I don't even realize it. I don't even realize it. So we are a very happy ignorant lot, so, and we've decided that this would be our least priority actually, which should be our first priority. We not wanting to educate ourselves, and that is where, like I said, people like me and few like-minded people would want to do this. We would want to create this awareness in all forms, wherever it is, in terms of own self first, then it comes the environment, then comes the nation. Yes, certainly. So hopefully we are able to do something for humanity.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. So, and that was very interesting on the war side. So, before we finish up, you've got a podcast. You might tell the listeners what your podcast is about.
Okay, yes. Podcast is again actually is an idea to create awareness. So like I said, I started out as a coach, and as a resilient lifestyle strategy coach. And in terms of creating an awareness, I'm using this medium of information which is available to us, and especially the social media. So I said, why not address the issues which are left kind of unaddressed? Because I had a lot of clients who would come to me, and like you must be having a fair bit of idea of what kind of people we are. So my clients would come and tell me that they have a serious trouble, they've hit the wall. So what is the cause? If you're working, okay, quit your job, maybe take another job. They said, we can't do it. Sometimes the whole industry is plagued with a similar problem. So what do you do? So I said, then as a coach, why am you paying me for what? If you're not, getting a resolve for certain things. They said, no, talking to you and discussing certain things, we take back some value, which helps us. So I said, why not come up with an idea whereby I bring guests who talk of challenges in the workspace, various kind of challenges in life, challenges in growing up, challenges in relationships, which can help the listeners and people who watch it to give them some tips in the way of light-hearted conversations, which they would want to listen at the end of the day sometimes, just to relax, and when they want to hear something meaningful. So that was the whole idea behind starting this podcast.
Yeah, beautiful. I think it's a fantastic idea. So, how can people get in contact with you?
Oh yes, great. So I keep telling, I can't run away even if I want to. You just Google my name. This is Winko Chou. So since I'm enlisted and I'm a pensioner, I'm always available. My records are available in public. You would find the date of commission. You just Google my name, Wing Commander Satyendra Chauhan. It is there. But anyways, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn with the name Wing Commander Satyendra Chauhan, and my Facebook page with the same name and profile, and my podcast page, which is Know Your Happiness How with Winko Chow. And I have Instagram account and YouTube channel and all those places. I'm trying to establish some kind of visibility. Hopefully it works.
Perfect. Listen, Winko, it has been fantastic talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing your time.
Pleasure was mine. I hope I could add some value to the conversation, and yes, in the times to come, maybe we would have something more interesting uh, for our listeners and viewers to look for the time on awakening.
Of course. So that's all for the Awakening Podcast. You'll find all the episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. We've also got the Speaking Podcast and the Meditation Podcast that can be found on roycollin.com. All episodes now are on BitChute and YouTube. So be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, and share with your friends. Until next week, take care.